welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel, that is the R in the RK Stumbling Bear, and I am a reader and a writer. And welcome back to my week 5 wrap-up. So as promised in this wrap-up, I am also going to have a section where I talk about my progress on my year goals. I was kind of thinking in my head calling it stats, but it's not really numbers, it's more just how am I doing. We're going to first talk about the books I read this week. And I did finish Goliath by Itochi Onyebuchi. Here in the next week or so, I will have a dedicated review for this come out because this is a 2022 new release. This is a near science fiction set around the 2050s. I was confused of whether it was in 2050 or if some of the earlier events that then prompt the majority of the events started in the 2050s. But it is near future-esque. This is a very unusually structured book from what I normally read, and that's just because of how the narrative went. And while I know I liked it, and this book has made me think a lot, I still am processing. So that's why I said a future review will be coming out. And so far I've only seen one other person have a review for this, and that was Angela over at Science Literature Alliance. So if you are wanting to know something more right now about this book, please go check out her review. It is spoiler free and it's done really well. I enjoyed her thoughts immensely. Review to come. Then I guess I needed a break from serious science fiction, and this is where you can see I really am a widely read reader. I like to read across many genres. So I ended up picking up Death by Dumpling by Vivian Chen, and I actually read this on my phone because my library only had a digital copy of it. And this is a cozy mystery. So this book follows Lana Lee, who is half Asian, half white, and she is a server in her mother's Chinese restaurant. She's 27 years old, trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life, but isn't necessarily living a bad life. After delivering food to their plaza's landlord, he is found dead, and they are suspected. Or actually, the cook at their restaurant is suspected of murdering him. I adored this book. Halfway through this book, I sent a message to my mom because she really likes mysteries, and I told her, I'm really enjoying this book, you should pick it up. She went and picked it up. Like I said, I haven't even finished the book, and I was enjoying it so much. This has strong female friendships, female connections, family. The community that is in this book, like, chef's kiss for this book. Seriously. I'm really looking forward to reading the rest in the series. Vivian Chen did a great job. So you had a few different options of who the murderer could be. And she did a really good job of just lacing in doubt and, circumstantial evidence. Well, I don't know if it's circumstantial evidence or not. Lacing in, like, dropping hints and information at the right point that you would be like, maybe we can mark or take this person out, and then you're like, oh wait, maybe not. So really it wasn't until the end of this book that I found out who it was and was like, oh, and then looking back you could see how everything lined up and all the pieces for it, and I just really enjoyed it. I also really enjoyed that even though there were two guys that were interested in Lana, one was the detective investigating, and so he was completely hands-off. You could kind of tell that he was attracted to her, but he wasn't making a move because that would have been inappropriate. And the other guy who asked her out, I like that it wasn't the typical, let me, push on your boundaries until you just give in kind of thing. No, Lana was very much in charge of herself, and there was consent to the potential relationships that were happening, and I really enjoyed it. I guess I can't stop saying how much I really enjoyed this book, and I think it was a good palate cleanser from Goliath. I then finished Across the Green Grass Fields by Shauna McGuire. This is an interesting series with the Wayward Children, or my experience with this series has been very interesting. I really enjoyed the first book, and then the second book felt more like an info dump. Like, you're just telling me things. I'm not actually experiencing it with the characters. But I still picked up the third book. It followed the first book more. like not a direct sequel kind of thing, but just narratively it was more of a story. And it flowed. And then we got to the fourth book, Lundy's book. And while the premise was awesome, again, it was more info dumping. So then I read the fifth book. And we're back to story, narrative. And then we come to this book. And I was really afraid of it. And actually I read the first chapter. And it was more of that style of that we had gotten with the second and fourth book. And I was, at that point, I almost DNF'd the series. Because I'm just like, I don't want to experience another info dumpy book. I'm just, no. I gave it a week and then picked it up again. I was like, you know what? This Sean Maguire is so well loved. This is probably going to end up being nominated for the Hugos and the Nebulas. And so then I'll want to read it anyway. I might as well just read it. So then I'm done. And then after that, if I don't like it, I'll DNF the series. This is my thought process. And I picked it up and no, we got a story. We got to follow Reagan as she's dealing with her own issues of wanting to conform to somebody else's idea of what a girl is and just conform to society. The reason I didn't like the first chapter is because it made it feel like everything, like sometimes with these books it's like you make one decision and that like the rest of your life is now planned out, and that's not how real life is. So that's why I was mad after that first chapter. But with the second chapter we can see that the character has learned from that, and I like that Reagan didn't believe in destiny or fate. She believed in what she actually did would control how life happened. So when she's giving information that rocks her world, she made a mistake. And that mistake led to her finding her door to the Hooflands, where she was happy. And so I enjoyed this way more than I thought I would after that first chapter. And yes, I will read book 7. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this one. Finishing this book late Friday night is Brownies and Broomsticks by Bailey Cates. This is another cozy mystery set around a bakery and about a young woman who finds out she's a witch and the implications of what that means. This book was fun, and while I am not Wiccan or identify as a witch, any of those items, it felt like the author had done her research and was giving an accurate portrayal of that world, especially as Katie is learning about what powers are and how things work or how things can possibly work. She's introduced to a bunch of other witches who all have a different way of working magic and how that intersects with their lives. It was interesting. So Katie is moved down to Savannah, Georgia to work in the bakery that her aunt and uncle are opening. She's a pastry chef, and she's just recently come out of a messy breakup. And as they are getting things opened, a woman is killed outside of the bakery, and the police think that her uncle did it. So as she's trying to get things opened up, figuring out whether she believes she's a witch or not, she's now also investigating a murder to try to clear her uncle's name. This book follows the cozy mystery plot structure very well. It's a light read. I did figure out who the murderer was pretty early on, and it was just, I didn't know why until the end. So the why of it was good. And for the most part, I enjoyed this. The one element I did not like out of this, we're kind of being set up for a love triangle. There's two men who, right from the get-go, are interested in her and she feels attraction for, but she comes from a messy breakup. She's like, I said 6 months without a guy, and they both are like, oh, that's nice. I'm still going to show that I'm interested in you and keep pushing your boundaries. And I didn't like that. Enough so, I am happy with this book. This is a good book. If a love triangle is not a problem for you, a love triangle just doesn't always work for me. So like Death by Dumpling, it's kind of being set up to be a love triangle, but not pushy. In this, both of the guys are both pushy, and I don't like that. So I'm not going to be continuing reading this series, but this was a good book, and I did enjoy it myself while I read it. I have no problems with it. Beyond the love triangle. That was really the thing that kind of brought it down. So I would definitely be interested in reading more by this author. So that finishes the things that I have finished this year. Well, yeah, so far this year. That I finished this week. I don't know. Okay, so to the things that I made progress on. I have made more progress in Silk and Steel. This is a short story anthology, and it's about queer joy. And I'm enjoying these short stories. I'm not much of a short story reader typically, but these have been a lot of fun. I'm about halfway through, which is cool. Unfortunately, my hold on it is up and I have to return it to the library, but I'll be taking it out as soon as I can just to finish it. Again, I made progress. I did make more progress in I Love It When You Talk Retro. I don't know why me and nonfiction are slow together, but I did get a little bit further into this book, and I am enjoying it. We have hit a section where the retro terms that are being discussed aren't terms that I know. So once I am finished with this and give this to my parents, I'm curious if they're going to recognize more words than I do, just because maybe these terms are more familiar to a different generation. But wow, really makes you think about how the words of my grandchildren are going to be so different. And I made a little bit more progress in Abaddon's Gate. I think after finishing Goliath, I needed a break from science fiction, but I do plan on jumping more heavily into this coming week. I really would like to get this finished. I do plan on continuing to work on this some more as well. And then I am hoping to pick up 2 other books. The first one I'm hoping to pick up is Escaping Exodus by Nikki Drayden. This is the group book for the Blackathon 2022 Readathon for Team SFF. And it's been on my TBR for a while, and so I'm excited to read it. It seems like it's going to be an interesting premise, and from what I've heard of it, it is set in, it's in space, and the people are living inside a living creature, and it sounds very interesting. And then the other thing I am planning to pick up this week is You Were Made for This, which is from a literary thriller, I believe. Not something I usually read. I got this as a Goodreads giveaway, trying to request new things to kind of read, and I'm not sure if I'm going to like it. This is part of the Buzzword Readathon TBR that I set for myself from my personal shelves. So I want to at least try this, and I have given myself permission to DNF if I don't like it, or I'm not getting into it, since thriller is not typically my genre. For my goal progress wrap up, I have had the monthly goal to read 8 books a month. For novels and for shorter works, I finished 7 by the end of January. 4 novels and 3 novellas, unless you're counting all the books that I read for the project with my husband, and then I went way over. Then that would be 5 more novellas. For my 2022 new releases goal, my goal is to read 1 each month, or at least 1 each month, and I did that. I read, for the month of January, I finished Goliath by Tochi Bucci. Came out in January of 2022. For my Goodreads currently reading, I started at 163, and in January I read 1 book from that list, and so I finished my January at 162. For my physical TBR, I started at 73 books, and I finished Goliath, which brings me down to 72. In my goals video, I think I said I had 87 started series. When I went back and checked, I actually only had 85. So for my goal for finishing already started series, I started with 85, 17 that I'm caught up on, but are still in progress. For January, I finished 2 series. The Tide Child series, so when I finished The Bone Ship's Wakes, that finished that series. Oh, and then I finished Inherit the Flame by Megan O'Keefe, and that finished the Scorched Continent series. So I finished 2 series. Then I started 1 that I'm planning to continue with, and that is the Noodle Shop Mystery series, which is the Death by Dumpling is the first book in that, because I finished that in January. So I still have 84 series left to finish, and my caught up has stayed at 17. Getting down a little bit, making some progress. And then I had the other goal was to do written book reviews to post on Goodreads and Storygraph, and I have not done that at all. So for my not writing wrap up, which I am going to start calling my writing wrap up as I am transitioning to thinking about picking up writing again. And I have been trying to decide what short stories I would like to work on to submit to future anthologies, kind of from the list that David Wiley had shared with me. And then I have a dragon short story that I am wanting to pull off of my hard drive to work on, and I have a glimmering of idea for like a urban fantasy fire story set around the Chicago fire. We'll see how that one goes, but both of those anthologies are later in the year, so I have a little bit more time to work on these items, and I am excited just to be daydreaming and storying again in my head. Okay, so going on to my other media wrap up. I know I listened to podcasts. I don't think I watched any videos, and nothing is really jumping out to me. So yeah, but I did get some nice TV recommendations last week, so I am going to put that in my TBR for TV and film, and one day watch them. That TBR is a little bit longer to complete. One day it will happen. But yeah, continue to give me recommendations of books that you have read, TV shows, movies that you've watched that you think I might like. I appreciate it. And how was your week 5? Thank you and have a good day.